The morning rush at Brew Haven Cafe was as chaotic as ever, baristas shouting orders, grinders humming, and steam hissing from espresso machines. Outside, the city buzzed under a winter-gray sky. Inside, however, a single moment cut through the noise like a whisper in a storm. "Can I sit here?" The voice was soft, barely audible over the clatter of cups. It belonged to a frail little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Her head was bald, her eyes slightly sunken, and she clutched a small teddy bear in one hand and a hospital mask in the other. She looked out of place among the laptops and lattes, but she stood there, waiting. Across from her sat a sharply dressed man in his late 40s, absorbed in the glow of his tablet. His salt and pepper hair, designer coat, and the Rolex peeking out from under his cuffs screamed money. He barely glanced up. "There are other tables," he replied, his voice clipped. She didn't move. "I like this one," she whispered. "It's sunny here." He looked up again. And this time, really saw her. There was something in her eyes that stopped him, something far older than her years. Tired, but bright. Weak, but stubborn. The kind of look only someone who had seen too many hospital walls could carry. Reluctantly, he nodded. "Okay. Sit." She smiled. Not just politely, genuinely. Like he had given her a gift. As she climbed into the chair across from him, he couldn't help but ask, "Where's your mom?" "She's parking the car," she said, pulling out a crumpled drawing from her coat pocket. "I wanted to come in first. I like the smell here." He noticed her hospital bracelet then, half hidden under her sleeve. Silence fell for a moment as he went back to his tablet, though his eyes weren't reading anymore. She glanced at his untouched croissant. "Are you gonna eat that?" He raised a brow. "Do you want it?" She nodded. He slid it over with a chuckle. "Help yourself." Over the next 15 minutes, the girl, Ava, chattered like a bird. She talked about her teddy bear's name, Buttons, her favorite ice cream, mint chip, and how she was on her 3rd round, but doing okay this time. The man listened, barely saying a word. What Ava didn't know was that she wasn't just talking to any man. His name was Richard Hale, CEO of Hale Tech Systems. A multimillionaire tech mogul. More importantly, a man who hadn't smiled in 3 years. Not since his wife died. Not since cancer took her too. Richard had buried himself in work. He stopped visiting her favorite places. Stopped opening her piano room. Stopped living. He came to Brew Haven every morning because it was quiet, predictable. A place no one bothered him. Until today. And now, a sick little girl was sitting in his wife's favorite chair, smiling, eating his breakfast, and filling the air with stories and hope. When Ava's mom arrived, breathless and apologetic, she froze at the sight. "Ava. You can't just sit with strangers." "It's okay," Richard interrupted gently. "She's good company." Her mom, a worn-out woman in her 30s, looked stunned. Then embarrassed. "I'm so sorry, sir. She just loves cafes. And, well, today's her hospital break." Richard nodded. No need to explain. Before they left, Ava turned back and looked at him. "You look sad," she said. "But you're kind. You should smile more." And just like that, they were gone. The next day, Richard returned to Brew Haven, but the tablet stayed in his briefcase. And the day after that. And the one after that. He began asking the barista if Ava had come in. Sometimes she had. Sometimes not. When she did, he made sure the seat across from him was empty. He started to learn about her treatments, her favorite colors, the way she hummed when she was nervous. He bought her sketchbooks. He brought her muffins. And slowly, piece by piece, something inside him started to wake up. Ava became his morning light. But life, as it often does, brought both joy and sorrow. One morning, Ava didn't show up. Or the next. Or the next week after that. Richard called every pediatric hospital in the city. No answers. He didn't even know her last name. He was haunted by the absence. By the silence of her laughter. He had come to love that child, not out of pity, but out of pure connection. She had given him more healing than any therapist or million-dollar business deal ever had. 2 weeks later, he returned to Brew Haven on a snow-covered morning and found a note on the table. Dear Mr. Richard. I missed coffee with you. I had to stay in the hospital for a while, but I'm better now. Thank you for making me smile when I felt yucky. Mommy says you're special. I think so too. Love, Ava. Attached was a crayon drawing. It showed him, sitting at their usual table, smiling. He cried. Right there, in the middle of Brew Haven, the millionaire who never cried wept like a child. Months later, Ava finished her treatments. Richard was there on her last day, holding a bouquet and a teddy bear. He wasn't just her coffee friend anymore, he had become family. In time, he set up a foundation under his late wife's name, for children like Ava. Funded new treatment programs. Opened free art therapy rooms in children's hospitals. He still went to Brew Haven every morning. Only now, Ava often sat beside him, drawing, chatting, dreaming. And Richard Hale, the once lonely widowed CEO, had finally begun to live again. Final message. Sometimes, the smallest voices leave the deepest marks. Never overlook a chance to listen, to connect, to be present. Healing often arrives when we least expect it, sometimes in the shape of a sick little girl asking, "Can I sit here?"